Okay guys, welcome back to the channel today. Today we're doing something just a little bit different. I've got a lot of people asking me this about my settings I use for force feedback. So I wanted to go through a video because force feedback is very specific to the wheel you use and your preferences. On the screen at the moment is how I have it set up for the console on a T500. Now this is really important. The T500 has extremely strong force feedback settings. So I have to go very low on the console version of Assetto Corsa. On the PC version, using the same wheel, my force feedback is at like 75% because that's obviously been set at a specific rate for that. So it's a lot different on the PC. We'll do a separate video on the PC force feedback settings that I use and something I do on the brake curve for the PC version. But for the console version, these are the settings I use now. It's very important that you're going to need to adjust these depending on which wheel you use. For example, the T300 is very much a smoother wheel that it doesn't have the same strength in its force feedback, so you're going to probably need to go above 50% probably. I'm not 100% sure for the main force feedback. It may need to be about 50 to 60% or more. I do know that Assetto Corsa's default 100% on the T500 was just too much. It was just tearing my hand apart, and I don't like force feedback that is like that. I prefer my force feedback controllable. I want to feel the force feedback, but I don't want it to rip my hands apart, and I don't want it to be too strong. It's down to personal preference, but what I'm going to tell you is the way I do my force feedback. I mean, I haven't changed it since I bought the game, because once I've got something that I'm happy with, I try not to change it because I just like to get used to that, how it is. I don't like to mess with things like this. It's not something that I go into, but I just wanted to give you guys some sort of like a video just to show you guys what I actually done and what I've got running on mine, because a lot of people ask why is it so smooth, and I don't know if it could be something to do with my settings. But for the first thing I do with my force feedback is get the main force feedback correct. So with the curb and road, probably I'd start, if I was doing it from fresh, I would probably start by just putting them to 50% and then getting the force feedback to where I want it. With this, like I say, with T300, you're going to probably have to go a lot higher. The G29, you probably won't have to go as high. It'll probably be in between the T300 and the T500. The T500 is going to be the lowest settings you're going to need for the main force feedback. And then what I found was, with the curb and road, it just required a little bit less than the main force feedback, because the curb is obviously, it's self-explanatory. The curb is the force feedback you're going to get when you're going over curbs and bumps in the roads and stuff like that. Although I think roads, it says there is a separate force feedback, I still think the bumps is a similar effect to the curbs when you hit a bump, etc. So the road for me is when you're turning the tyre on the contact, so it's more of like tyre force feedback, the road, a bit like on Project Cars, the tyre. That's how it seems to work on Assetto Corsa for myself, the feelings I get from it. I'm not saying this is exactly how it works, this is how I perceive it and how I get the force feedback from it. So the road is the strength that the tyres grip to the tarmac as you're turning the steering wheel. So that's what you need to adjust for that. The curb obviously is, like I say, just going over the curbs and how strong you want that force feedback. I don't want that stupidly high that it's gonna, every time I attack a curb, my hands are gonna get shaken off the wheel. That's not what I want. It's not how I like it. The understeer effects, I found that having that on seemed to work better for myself. When I had it off, I felt like there was a weird kind of loose sensation in the car, and I didn't like it, so I use understeer effects on. As for the slip force feedback, this is the force feedback that's going to for when the car's sliding. So if you lose, this is how I perceive it. Again, I don't know if this is 100% correct, but I perceive it as when the back end's going loose, the slip effect that you're going to get through the force feedback. So how much you're going to feel. Now, I don't like that too high, but purely because I don't really want to be driving with the rear end sliding. I would guess if you were drifting and doing a lot of drifting, you're going to want that higher, and that may be why I tend to have it low, because I don't like the rear end sliding around. I like the car to be stable to the ground. I don't tend to have the car sliding that much, so I only want the minimum amount, but I do want that 1% there. It does make a difference. If you have it off, you don't really feel anything. 1% just gives you that little bit of warning that it's going to happen, and you can feel it. I can feel it fine with 1%, but that's because I use a T500, like I say. If you're using like these other wheels with brushless motors and stuff like that, you're going to need probably to go higher on stuff like this. And this is why I say it's very preferential, and why I'm trying to explain why I've done these settings. Like I say, if I had a T300, I'd probably go to at least 50 to 60% on the main force feedback. Curb would probably be about 30 to 40%, maybe 50, and then the road. I like to keep my road and curb exactly the same for the force feedback. I mean, there isn't any specific reason other than the fact that I found that having them two set at the same level seemed to work well for myself when I was testing it out when I first got the game. I mean, these settings I think have only changed once. After an update that altered the force feedback quite a long time ago, I found I just had to add a little bit of force feedback to my settings, because I was even lower than this when the game came out. But I think I added a couple percent. I think also when when I was on the PC version, because of the differences after I was playing on that, it felt a little bit different on this, so I just altered it slightly. The thing with the PC version is you have your main settings for your force feedback, and then you can alter the force feedback strength for each individual car, which is so much better, because I just then have my base setting, and then if your force feedback feels a bit low on the PC, you can just alter the individual car, but obviously you can't do that on the console. So this is how I have it, and so far it's worked well on the majority of cars. I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect for every car. You may need, if you have a preference of a type of car, you're going to probably alter it or whatever. And another thing is, you need to remember that these settings are not going to be ideal for everyone. A lot of people, it's very preferential the type of force feedback you like. It's the same as anything, even the car setups, everything is down to how you want it to be, and this is just how I found I liked it and I got along with it. There is probably a setting out there that would work much better for myself, but I'm not the type of person to go too much into the force feedback and mess with them. I like to just get myself comfortable, get it so I can feel comfortable while driving, and then I just stick to them settings. So I just wanted to give you guys them settings there, and we'll have a little look at the other options I've got that I use. Not that they make much difference, but I just thought you guys would like to have a little look and see what the settings I use are. Okay, so next up we've got the basic presets that we can use. Obviously on console we don't have the ability to map our own buttons, which is something that is really needed on the PS4 and the Xbox. They need to sort this out, because especially for myself with the T500, it's just not ideal at all, the way the buttons work out, and it's something that that's basically the only setting I can use, because the other one doesn't really work very well for myself in terms of the button placements. So that's what I use at the moment for the T500. I would much prefer them to just allow us to map the buttons however we want it, but hopefully that will come in the future. Next thing up here, my field of view that I use is, I think it's just the default 56 degrees. Wheel rotation limit, default 400. HUD on full, and color filter, I have that to expanded. It's not the default. I just prefer the slight color change in the visuals on the expanded one, and I just find it a little bit clearer and sharper, the visuals. So if you want to give that a try, feel free to do it. It does actually change the visuals slightly. It doesn't change performance or nothing, it just slightly alters the visuals to my preference. That's just how I do it. Anyway guys, thanks again for watching this video. Any comments, leave them in the comments, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave it a like if you've enjoyed this video. Thank you guys.